We just had an earth-shattering Woj bomb that could change the landscape of the NBA and college basketball, as the Lakers are heavily pursuing Dan Hurley to be their next head coach. And while everybody thought it was going to be JJ Redick to be the next head coach of the Lakers, the telenovela that is the LA Lakers strikes again. What's good, y'all, and welcome to another Lakers Digest video. I'm your host, Okechi Apakama, and before we get into everything that we have for you for today's video, guys, I want to bring your attention to something. There is 85% of you guys who have recently watched our videos who are not subscribed to the channel just yet, and if you guys want more of that Laker news, trade rumors, Laker reactions, just every and all things Lakers basketball here this offseason, you guys want to come right here to Lakers Digest so you guys do not miss any of those updates. Now, with that out of the way, let's hop straight into the topics that we have for you today, as this one was a shocker for me this morning, as the Lakers will pursue Dan Hurley as head coach. So, Dan Hurley is widely considered one of the best collegiate coaches in basketball, as he's recently led UConn to back-to-back national titles, which is not an easy thing to do, and he's done a terrific job of building up that program and having really advanced offensive schemes that had coaches around the NBA and just people around basketball very enamored by his coaching chops. And those people also include Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss, as Adrian Wojnarowski reported earlier today this morning, probably 4 a.m. in the morning, this news dropped, that Dan Hurley they're looking at Dan Hurley to be their next head coach for the foreseeable future, as they're looking to give him a long-term deal and essentially the keys to the franchise for the next couple of seasons post LeBron. So this is a very huge development, as through the times that we've been reporting before that JJ Redick was the favorite, but it seems that Dan Hurley has been the Lakers guy, according to Adrian Wojnarowski. He's been the guy they've sought after for, and he's been the guy the Lakers are willing to break the bank for in bringing him in. And I didn't really have too many issues with JJ Redick because I knew he had that basketball acumen. He really has that high-level basketball IQ. The only thing I was worried about with Redick was he didn't have the experience. Dan Hurley is not that. He's a guy that definitely has the experience, the resume to command a job like this, and he hasn't coached at this level before. So this will be a new, interesting challenge for this guy, but he is a person very capable of taking on this Los Angeles Lakers job. And not only could he be helpful for this LeBron and AD era, but the Lakers also looking at him to help develop the next cream of crop of Los Angeles Lakers, as a big reason why the Lakers are interested in him is because they think he can develop their young core, guys like Austin Reaves, Rui Hachimura, and Max Christie, and then that also makes them a little bit more interested in a guy like Bronny James, as he can be another guy that could come through that developmental system and really make his name as an NBA player. So that is a big reason why the Lakers have been looking towards Dan Hurley, not only as a guy that can help them right now, but a guy that can really help them in the future, help them build a system that they can come back to, run, and just form a way that looks like Lakers basketball. And then this has really shocked a lot of people throughout the basketball world, as Dan Wokey reported that I don't know I've ever been more shocked, which is one source told him early Thursday morning, because this was not in the news anywhere. The Lakers did a very good job, and also UConn as well, keeping this under wraps, because it seems like they have already met a couple of times between the Lakers and Dan Hurley. And while the decision is not final just yet, as Dan Hurley is still 50-50 on whether if he was going to come back to UConn to try to win a third national title in a row, or take on a new challenge and become the Lakers' next head coach for the or for the foreseeable future. So there is a lot of things that Dan Hurley has to figure out here in the next couple of days here. But as for the Los Angeles Lakers, moving on from probably JJ Redick as a favorite to Dan Hurley, like I said, it is very interesting. You have a guy that has the resume and the abdomen to really take on this Lakers coaching job and really help the Lakers push them into the next frontier. And while the Lakers are trying to obviously build their roster and find the right guys. I think this guy could possibly be the right coach for the job. And he has been a guy who has been around basketball most of his life. He's got his brother coaching at ASU, Bobby Hurley. So he's been a guy just in around basketball for years and years and years. So he knows a thing or two about not only developing young guys or developing an offensive system, or just developing just a culture that you really want to see for the Los Angeles Lakers because of so much turnover they've had ever since Phil Jackson left that door. There hasn't been a Lakers coach that has lasted more than 2 seasons, and they're hoping a guy like Dan Hurley could be that next dude. But a lot of you are probably wondering or thinking, like, what happened with this JJ Redick thing, or even James Borrego, some of the guys that they were talking about before? Was it all, to some would say, was all the other coaching interviews a smokescreen to some extent? And I would answer just a little bit, probably yes and no, because it's the Lakers are still unsure if they can get Dan Hurley away from UConn, because that is going to be a very hard sell, because he's already been successful there. Like, why would you leave a job that you're already comfortable for a probably more emotional, taxing job as the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers? But for a guy probably looking for a challenge, this could be the way. But for some of the other coaches, like I said, is it a smokescreen? Like I said, yes and no for the most part, but I do believe they brought in these interviews with the intention that maybe thinking, like, if this Dan Hurley thing does not work out, maybe we can hire one of these guys, whether it is a JJ Redick, whether it was a James Borrego, or Mike Nori, or Dave Adelman, one of these guys that they brought in for interviews. But I don't truly believe the Lakers were just doing that just cause, but like, or to kind of like blind people from what Dan Hurley could be. They were just doing that just in case maybe Dan Hurley does not accept their offer, so they have all these other options to put a coach. But once you find a high level coach, I do think that just makes this an obvious choice, because he can be a guy that can really change some things for the Los Angeles Lakers just from a culture standpoint. And I really want to stress how important that is for the Los Angeles Lakers to really build and develop a culture, because even with some of their teams they've had in the past, I mean some of their more successful teams, they've always had some type of culture or some type of way, whether it was built around their stars, like guys like Kobe and Shaq, or Kobe and Powell, or even further back with Magic and Kareem. So those guys all had a certain culture that they would really come to season in, season out, and that's what they would adhere to. And obviously they had legendary coaches like Pat Riley from the previous era, and then Phil Jackson during that Kobe, Shaq, and Kobe Powell era. So Dan Hurley possibly doing this for LeBron James and Anthony Davis could be a very interesting thing for LeBron to possibly capture another ring here late in his career. And then also this can be huge for a guy like Anthony Davis, who is probably looking to be the franchise leader for the Los Angeles Lakers for these next couple of seasons, because remember, he signed that huge extension of the year prior, and then so Anthony Davis is going to be with the Los Angeles Lakers for the foreseeable future. So it is important that not only that we are building to kind of like help facilitate LeBron James and his the end of his career, but also helping Anthony Davis, because he is our main guy. And bringing in a guy like Dan Hurley, I think, could bode well for a guy like Anthony Davis. Obviously, building up those young guys up around him, so he isn't just out there being that only stud superstar out there. So I'm really interested to see what happens here in the next couple of days, to see if the Lakers are able to really hammer down a deal, because this possibly could be a very large deal. And there's people even around the basketball community talking about how well a guy like Dan Hurley can do on the job. And so his fellow colleague over there at UConn, Gino, who was the head coach of the women's basketball team, he was talking with Dan Hurley actually the night prior. So this is an interview he had earlier this morning on the Dan Kirkpatrick show. And then he said, he told Dan Hurley that he thinks that he can win a lot of championships with the Lakers, and more so than another guy who has never coached. So that's Gene kind of throwing a little bit shade towards JJ Redick's direction. But that's more him just, I think, vouching for his colleague and his guy, Dan Hurley, to possibly be the next head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers. This could really, really change things for the Lakers. Because if they find a coach that can just be there for not just a couple of seasons, but for multiple seasons, because building that culture is very important. Like, I look at teams like the Miami Heat, even a team like the New York Knicks this season, who have really built around this culture and really galvanized that team around that type of idea. And that comes from mostly their head coach, because obviously you got Tibbs in New York, and then you got Spo in Miami. So those guys are very hands-on with their team. They know what type of culture they're trying to build, and I think Dan Hurley can do that for the Los Angeles Lakers. But what do you guys think the Lakers should do at that head coaching position? Do you think Dan Hurley is the guy, or do you are more along the lines of, you think we should hire a guy like JJ Redick, James Borrego, or some of the other guys that was discussed, like Mike Nori or Dave Adelman? So let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. I have been your host, Okechi Apakama, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.